Welcome to episode number 6 of Scrap Radio, brought to you by bjpen.com. I never get used to saying that, but it's so cool to say it, bjpen.com. Hey, thank you for tuning in to our show today. This week we have a star-studded lineup. Seriously, no joke. Josh Thompson, we got Caesar Gracie. Of course, everybody's going to want to ask all these questions to Caesar. And we got Alan Belcher. Now, that's the one I was really pumped up, to talk to because of his absolute decimation of his last fight. Mike Kyle will be joining us today, so it's going to be crazy. And in case you guys missed, we just launched this official Just Scrap Radio Twitter account. So what you need to do is go check out at Just Scrap Radio and follow us. Make it big. Ask the questions, ask anything that you can. Of course, we'll be trying to pull a few out of the hat when their fighters are on, and anything that you want to ask, what I'm saying, we'll try and throw it out there to the fighters, and we'll call out a few and things like that. But anyway, I'll keep moving on. Hey, I'm Little Evil, Jens Pulver. You know that. I'm your host. And I got my little sidekick. I know he hates it. No, my co-host, my little brother, Abel, the man, the myth, the legend, Pulver. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm ready to be the Robin to your Batman, buddy.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Just don't be the kryptonite to my Superman. So... No, hey, how's it going in Seattle? What's the weather like over there? We're starting to warm up here in the Midwest, son. We're starting to warm up a little bit.
Raining as always, my friend, but it's another Tuesday, so I'm ready to rock.
There you go. Good deal. I mean, we got all kinds of craziness going on. It basically was a Strike Force weekend, you know what I mean? More or less. It's all this stuff coming out of Strike Force. I mean, you got to look at Josh Thompson, who we're going to have on, versus Gil. You can hit that point right now, Abel. I'll just let you have an opinion before we even get the man on himself. So,
hey, I settled in to watch the fight, drink a couple adult beverages with a couple buddies, and at the end of the night, I wonder again, who's watching these things, who's scoring these things, who are these guys? And then my biggest question coming out of that fight is, how do you fix it? Because I just don't feel like they gave the decision to the right guy.
I think what they focus on and what they're after sometimes makes you wonder. I mean, the days of the guy who's moving just forward and trying to bring the fight, even though he's getting pelted 18 times in the mouth, obviously doesn't work. The forever pain in the bottom, pain in the butt deal. It was a takedown. What you do, you go right into the guy's guard. Nobody moves. There's two levels of fight, and sometimes they treat that damn thing like a knockdown. You know what I mean? So I think there's definitely got to be some criteria changes. We need to start, again, as people like me start getting older, and maybe that's what we have to do, start becoming judges. I'm not sure, really how you would judge that or how you'd go after it. But, yeah, I mean, you've seen a fight that was, again, a split decision, real close. I mean, I have my opinions. I don't know, trying to be publicly or I'm just trying to stay neutral, I guess is what it is. So, but then we also had Cormier. You know who he is, being a wrestler and a wrestling fan, and of course he fights Josh Barnett. And dang, what a fight right there! You think?
Yeah, I think that the moniker that they're giving him as the second coming, maybe a much tanner version of Fedor, he really is kind of embodying that style. He's got great takedowns, great throws. His hands are really accurate, and he seems to swing with a lot of force. He's throwing bombs, his hooks, and his right hands. And, I thought that he had a fairly easy time with Barnett, and that's not something I expected. I mean, I'm a huge Barnett fan. Obviously, I'm a Seattle guy. He's a Seattle guy. And he hasn't lost since his loss to Crow Cop in the heavyweight Grand Prix and Pride. And that was, in like 6 years ago or something. So, you start looking at that and you think, man, Cormier is legit. He is a serious force to be reckoned with. 238 pounds, that could be a little bit of a problem going forward, being a smallish heavyweight. But he right now has got to be one of the guys that everybody's looking at and thinking, I don't know if I want to fight him.
Yeah, you think they want to do the whole drop him down to 205, you're chilling around at 235. Let's get you down, get you in shape. I mean, it's a stacked 205. Or, you've been a heavyweight and, fighting these guys at this weight obviously didn't seem like too much of a problem. Barnett came in, 248, I believe, something like that. But, there's something to say when you're coming out of a wrestling pedigree of that nature. Your one-on-one, level is obviously Olympic level, that's Olympic caliber. That's just, that's insane. People probably look at it like, well, he's not fighting. So, you know, he's going to be, you know, new, rookie, whatever. But going out there and wrestling, you still, man, you're on the big stage. It's combative. You know, it's one-on-one. You still have to do all that. And I think he lived up to it. I mean, he looked great.
Yeah, you know, and the thing that's crazy is that, you know, Barnett's a great wrestler too. I mean, we used to joke around in high school when he went to Ballard High and call him the only city kid that could wrestle. He's a good wrestler, and Barnett's never been elevated, slammed, thrown around like that. I thought that was really the telltale thing in the fight, is that Cormier was able to make all of his takedowns so pronounced, and they were just, you know, he did it. He just really elevated him like he wasn't, like he was a child, you know, like he's throwing him around like a rag doll, and I just couldn't believe somebody being able to do that to Barnett.
Yeah, and again, you know, that's the one thing I would almost make. I've always said that about basketball, football, especially your line, your D line, your O line, things like that. The one thing that you always get from wrestling is that good center of balance, that good position where you realize, you know, it just takes little pops, little pulls, little shoves to, you know, knock a guy off balance, and you can really get after him. You don't have to sit there. You're not, you know, doing a straight deadlift and things like that. And so when you have that caliber and that ability to go after your own, you know, to be able to control your own body and then be able to push people into a different, you know, different position, and it doesn't take much effort, you can really get that good high lifting freestyle 5-point throw, touch your shoulders, touch fall, you know, so that always the right time to explode. And, you know, that's one of the things that's pretty cool about that I've always been about wrestling, a big advocate about wrestlers is, you know, I would make my O-line get out there right now and start learning how to center themselves up a little bit, and, you know, we can get after it in that aspect. And then same thing with basketball players. I could box somebody out right now. I don't care if they're 6'9", 10, you know, they could be 8 feet. I'm still going to box them out. They're not going to beat my hips. I keep them lower, and if I can put them back far enough, maybe I can still be Dennis Rodman and get the old rebounds. But, you know, I don't think either one really lost face in this fight, you know, and I know there's talk about, you know, do we get him to the UFC? Should Barnett go to the UFC? You know, Cormier is going to be busy where he's at. Where do we put Josh Barnett? He's been around for a long time, you know, former champ. You know, where does he go from here, you think?
Well, I think, you know, obviously, you know, that's just a one-time thing. He loses a really tough fight to a guy who's undefeated, and it's not something that I think Josh needs to hang his head about, or that people need to start looking at and saying, oh, where does Josh go from here? I think that, honestly, if they wanted to bring him over to the UFC, he's right in there. I think he comes right in, a top 5 kind of guy. You know, a lot of people had him top 3 in the world before that fight, and I think Josh fits right into the heavyweight division. You look at guys like, you know, obviously he's not going to run in there and challenge Dos Santos right off the bat or anything like that. But, you know, you're looking at guys like Struve and LeVar Johnson, and, you know, you even got guys like Cain Velasquez and Bigfoot Silva. I think he could make great fights with those guys. One of my fights that I looked at right off the bat, and I thought, if Josh came to the UFC, I want to see him in there with Big Country, Roy Nelson, right off the bat. I think that right there is a great fight for Josh. So,
oh, buddy, yeah, that'd be two big nations colliding right there, wouldn't it?
yeah, it'd be awesome.
Oh, wait. I think we have him. Speaking of, is the Punk? Do I got the Punk on here? Did I just hear him squeal in?
Yeah, that's me.
Josh Thompson. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good. What's going on, man? Long time no talk. I'm over here talking in the middle of people's backswings, playing golf.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my. All right. You got to go out there. I was just going to say, so what have you been doing since the fight? Just relaxing a little bit, hitting the golf course, I see. Well, how good's your game?
Yeah. I got a lot of family in town right now because they all came here for the fight, so they're just hanging out for the week. So just playing some golf. Still a little banged up. Hands are hurt right now, so just, you know, I'm not trying to squeeze the club too hard.
Oh, beautiful. I got you. So right off the bat, I got my little my co-host, my partner, Abel. And, you know, I guess we're going to jump right into probably a few questions you've had to deal with all day. But tell us, you know, give us your take on the fight. You know, and you don't be all polite. No, I'm just kidding. Give us your take on the fight. What'd you see? What'd you want to work on? You know what I mean? And your opinion. Because I know I have mine. And, you know, champ should have been after your name again. But, you know, what do you think? How'd you see it? You know, now, have you had a chance to go back and look at it? And, I mean, what's your take on it?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I had an opportunity to look it over on Sunday night. And, I felt like that. I think I felt like the rest of the fans did. I felt like, actually, to be honest, I felt like Miletich did. The first round should have been probably a 10-10 round, and then I thought I lost the second. The third could have went either way, and I definitely won fourth and fifth. But I feel like the third, though, I felt like I did more damage. I felt like I did, he took me down, but I hopped back up. I mean, it's one of those things where, it was an opportunity. I left it in the judge's hands. I felt like I was definitely in better shape than him. I could have pushed the pace a lot better, fought a better fight, to win it. But, I didn't really listen to my corner. I felt like I just gave the fight away, and that's just something that you can't do when you're fighting for a title, and, I obviously felt like I won, but it's just one of those things where you can't be mad when you leave it to the judges.
And Josh, you were very humble in your post-fight speech. The crowd obviously was on your side, and let me just say that you're all class, man. I thought that was really quite a show of who you are, your character in your post-fight speech. But was there just that feeling inside that, man, you just wanted to come out and say, hey, I think I won this fight? I agree with you. The first round is, I think, the one that it came down to. But was there that feeling at the end of the fight when the crowd's cheering, you got them all behind you? Don't you just kind of want to tip your hat to them and say, yeah, man, I know I won that?
I mean, yeah, but the thing is, like I said, I didn't want to speculate on it until I came back and saw the fight. And, and it's out of my control. The judges made the decision. This was the opportunity. I feel like when I wish, we had I wish Scott Coker or Dana White would just, would have stepped up and said, hey, it was such a close fight. Let's do the automatic rematch like they did with Frankie Edgar and Benson, and they did with, with Gray and Edgar too. So that would have been nice, But it's just we'll see what happens. We'll see how it all plays out. But it's been a real close fight. And I'd like, obviously the third fight didn't settle anything. I mean, a lot of the headlines across the media was, third fight trilogy, epic trilogy comes to an end, or did it, and nothing solved, and blah blah blah. So it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to swallow, if you ask me.
Yeah, for sure. And that was now you take me right into that question that I wanted to ask. I mean, just a moment. Now, have they hinted, the fourth? Have they, or like you said, you're still in the dark. They haven't really come at it. But, I mean, any idea, man, a fourth fight? I know he's not really down for it, but the reality is, as close as that was, I agree with you that, it's just, all right, now we need rounds 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 8, 9, and 10. You know what I mean? So we just need to keep going until we get a winner.
I look at it in a bunch of different ways. I mean, you have to understand, you want to be considered the best. There's two things. You want to be considered the best lightweight in the world. You just fight whoever they put in front of you. You don't hear GSP turning fights down or Anderson Silva turning fights down that are people that are in his weight class. Like, oh, I don't want to fight him again. Well, you don't really have that option, dude. You want to be considered the best, quit ducking people. That's the first thing. The second thing is I can't really so much as say him whether he was making excuses about there was a lack of motivation to train. How could you say that given the fact the first two fights were probably the toughest two fights you've ever had in your career? One of them you got your butt spanked, and then and then on top of that, I haven't heard they've been making more excuses about why they should have won the fight versus me, who, apparently I lost. I haven't made any excuses, and there was a lot of talk about me with the torn PCL before the fight, hurt ribs, hurt hands, hurt knee, whatever it was. I haven't made one excuse about why I should have won or anything, or why I lost or whatever. It hasn't been any. They're making more excuses about why they should have won. That doesn't sound like a camp that realizes or that thinks that they really won that fight.
And Josh, after the fight, obviously Gil said he didn't want to do a rematch. Now, like you said, making up excuses of why they should have won the fight more, or and you obviously not making excuses. Does that kind of feel like it's a moral victory in a sense to you? Does that kind of reaffirm the fact that you know that you won the fight?
No, no, that's like being second loser. That's like being, it doesn't make a difference, man. It doesn't matter how you look at it. It's hard to slice. It's hard to swallow. I hate fucking losing. And, You know, it drives me nuts. But that's part of the game. And when you lose a close fight like that, you know, it really actually eats you up a little bit more.
No, I hear it. And see, I love that, you know, the same way the outlook is really, you know, is great is I always tell people, you know, if you had an injury or you had this holding you back or you had this holding you back, hey, if you didn't, you know, postpone the fight, you step into that cage, you shut the door, you don't get to say, well, I'm coming in with this injury. No, you shut the door, you lost, you know, you don't have those excuses anymore. But my question is now looking at the UFC, I mean, can we see you over there? Do you see yourself, you know, who would you like to fight over there? I mean, is that something that could be coming up as well? Are you going to be a Strikeforce fighter for a while or, you know, what's the plan in that aspect?
Well, you know, first off, I agree with you 100%. Like, you know, once you decide to sign that contract, all your excuses, then you go out the door. Once you decide to sign that fight and sign that contract for that fight, you know, and you hurt your knee or whatever it is, you need to put all that stuff behind you. It's done. You know, I mean, there's no excuses anymore. You know, and I mean, I've had injuries and stuff like that, and I've fought through them. You know, but you know, you won't hear the excuses. So it is what it is. As far as fighting guys in the UFC, that's out of my control. You know as good as I do, as well as anybody, that, you know, Dana and Lorenzo and Coker and those guys, you know, they make the rules, you know, and you know, they bring you over when they want and when they can, and it just goes from there. I don't really have a whole lot of say in what goes on. I just, you know, I try and fight whoever they ask me to and do the best I can.
So no Christmas wish list on who, I mean, let's just throw it out there. You do get in, you know what I'm saying, and your next fight's going to be in the UFC or something. They're like, hey, pick your opponent. You know, who would you like to see yourself? I see you, I mean, you match up with every one of them great. I love, you know, again, your style, shoot. What a lot of people don't know is what, 99, 98, you and I were rocking back in Idaho. And, you know, your style's always, you know, a lot of fun to watch from day one. I still remember, I'm not bringing up the whole thing, but remember I was sitting there, either was cage side, I know that, at the UFC, you kept looking at, you kept winking at, and I was like, look at him, you know, because it's like, hey, I win this, we fight, and I'm thinking, damn, this is going to be a long time coming. And so I'm just saying, you know, are there certain fights you would like to have, certain opponents that you have on that list if you went into the UFC that you would like to hit up right off the bat?
Well, you know, I mean, I'm not getting any younger, and you know, it would be nice if I had to get brought over to be brought over soon, you know, and you know, and I think honestly, you just want to fight whatever the fastest road to the title is, you know, and whoever the UFC feels that's necessary, or you know, or even potentially, you know, fighting Gil in a rematch, you know. I mean, it's just I want to get the Strikeforce title or the UFC title, so whichever way is the fastest way. You know, and I'm not trying to say that I deserve an automatic title shot, because that's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm just trying to say whoever they feel is, you know, that they feel would be their number one contender or someone they're trying to build to push me up the ranks as fast as possible. You know, I mean, those are the guys that I want to fight. You know, I don't want to fight. I wouldn't. You know, I just want to fight the best guys that will get me to a title shot as fast as possible.
And Josh, it seems like, obviously, you know, back to Strikeforce itself, there's not a long line of guys that could be considered viable contenders for the belt. You know, we look at JZ Cavalcante losing on Saturday night. Really, when you think about it, it's KJ Noons or Pat Healy. Let's say that they say you could fight one of those two. Which one of those two would you prefer to fight, maybe for a chance then again to fight that fourth fight with Gil?
I mean, honestly, I'll tell you right now. I think Healy, if he fights Gilbert, I think he beats him. You know, I think Healy has a great opportunity. I fought Healy. I just know that his heavy, how heavy he feels, his aggression, like how he comes forward. You know, I mean, you don't have to worry about him ground and pounding you out or you know, knocking you out on the feet, but you got to worry about him putting his weight on you and pushing the pace at a pace where, you know, most people can't keep up, you know, and you're bearing all that weight. He's 190 pounds. I mean, it's no joke. So, you know, I really feel that he has a great opportunity to beat Gil, and, you know, and I'll maybe fight someone in between there, and hopefully I'll get an automatic title shot again if he wins. So we'll just go from there.
And Josh, it's been said that obviously a lot of guys, they come off a fight like that. It was a tough 5-round fight, and they like to take some time off and they kind of reflect, and maybe even a guy takes a little vacation and goes off to wherever. I have heard already from viable sources that you are back in the gym already. Is this true?
I was there yesterday, just real briefly, just shadow boxed a little bit. I didn't do much, just something to kind of get the soreness out from the fight. But I'm getting x-rays and MRIs done today on some body parts, to make sure that everything's okay and it's not messed up anymore. And I don't have a broken hand and stuff. So we're just going from there, and we'll make the decision from there on how soon we fight. But it's not going to keep me from shadow boxing and staying in shape. If anything, this fight, all it did was really motivate me more, and let me know that, I still am one of the best guys. There was a little bit in there from the injuries from last year. I took the whole year off because I had surgery on my wrist, and it's the most frustrating thing to feel like, I'm getting older, and do you still have it in there? Do you still have the tank? Do you still have this, And I just realized this fight made me realize that I still have it all, and and I had the opportunity to snatch up the title and be considered one of the best again in the world, and I feel like I am, and I showed it. I just fell a little short. That's all.
No, I hear you. And your conditioning, again, that was sick. That was one of the first things I was going to ask you is, man, through the roof, the way you can push that pace all the way into the 5th round. You get a little older, you start to get a little greasier, you're like, ugh. But, what are your secrets? Give me the secrets to that, because the one thing I noticed more than anything is your trips. They were still powerful. People start to lose their form. They lose their footing a little bit as fatigue maybe sets in. But you had it all the way through. Your trips were just disgusting. Where did you just decide to start uncorking trips? And you know what I mean? It was a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, I was working on stuff like that, trying to use because everyone these days can stop a double leg. Everyone can stop a single leg and a double leg now, and everyone's wrestling's getting better in the sport. And so you got to start catching them with things that they don't expect. And I kind of picked it up a little bit from Machida. I'd been doing it before, but he kind of gave me a little idea when I was watching him fight on how to set it up. And it's been working for me. And then when it doesn't go the way that I need, I usually try and step around and hit the knee tap on the other side like Pat was seeing me do, So it's just one of those things where it's about timing. It's just about getting them to get into an exchange with you or anything along those lines, and then setting it up the right way. And it's been working for me, And as far as conditioning goes, it's just, for this fight, and anytime I do a 5-round fight, which I should probably do all the time, is, I get back out on the track, and when I'm out on the track doing real track sprints with real track coaches, and just, really pushing myself on the track. My conditioning jumps through the roof. And so it's just a matter of getting out there and putting in the road work and putting in the track sprints. And, man, I noticed a huge difference. And to make me, and that was the one thing that was the most frustrating thing after the fight was I felt like it took me a little while to get going. I felt like I still won the first round, but it took me a little while to really let my hands go. And I had the energy to do another 5 rounds after the fight. That's what was so upsetting, was that, I could have went out there and just, and just let it all hang out a little bit better. And and I didn't do that. And just to let something like that slip away was the most frustrating part.
Hey, and Josh, we have a Twitter question here from one of our followers at SwissKin. They want to know how many fights you have left on your Strikeforce contract.
I'll have to look into it. I think it's 2. It's either 1 or 2. So we'll see what happens from there. But I believe it's either 1 or 2.
My man, dang, keeping it going. All right, brother. Well, I'm going to tell you what, I'm not going to keep you much longer because I know, you're out on the golf course right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Staring down a par 3, par 4 right now. So I'm going to let you hit. Hey, real quick, how's your game? How's the golf game? What's your, what do they call it, your handicap?
Well, I haven't got to play. I haven't got to play since, December, because I had the KJ fight and this fight. So we played in December with some family, and I was shooting pretty well back then. It took me about 4 or 5 holes to get going, so I'm shooting. I had a couple double bogeys and a couple bogeys the first 5 holes, but then three pars in a row, and then a bogey, and then another par. So I'm back on track a little bit, just trying to find my swing. That's all.
All right, my man. Well, all the best to you, brother. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on. It was good to talk to you. And you know what? Like I said, man, you're looking good out there in that cage, and it still feels like home for you. And I just want to wish you all the best, and we'll be talking to you again, yeah?
Hey, Jen, you know, we represented Idaho, which is where we came from, you know, back in the day with the fight world. So it's always a pleasure being on the radio show, and I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Okay, brother. Be good.
Right,
Abel Pulver.
Jens, let me tell you something. I want to tell you my handicap. Are you ready? It's 4.
Yeah, duck, run. I always told people when it came to the golf thing, you know, hey, I may not be. I've been, you know, me and Monty play just a ton, especially back in the day, not so much anymore. And it was one of those deals where I may not be good, but I was fast. I didn't hold anybody up. I couldn't stand a big old line behind me when I'm trying to tee off. So I just whack, run. I'm not that guy running around in the woods looking for my ball. You know what I mean? And so I just drop another one and get rolling. So, you know, with that, you just gotta kind of learn and rough it up. But all right. I've been waiting to talk to this youngster for a while. My man Caesar Gracie running around. He's got Gilbert Melendez. Of course, he's, you know, they're real tight in the beginning, and, you know, but they're still close. They're slightly removed. But then he's got the Diaz brothers. Now everybody under the sun is wanting to talk to Caesar about what it's like with the Diaz brothers. So, Caesar, you on here?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. How's it going?
Oh, bro. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Were you talking slightly removed with Gilbert? Because that's not the case.
No, I didn't mean slightly removed, but he's doing his own thing a little bit. Oh, I didn't mean, I apologize. I know you guys are still on the same team. You still coach, mentor, and things like that. I didn't mean it like that, but he has a gym. Where did he put his gym? See, I'm behind the times.
Oh, yeah. He's over there in San Francisco, and it's a really great gym. I suggest anybody that comes out south check it out on El Nino Training Center, and you can look that up, Google it, whatever. If not, it's over on off of 3rd Street, so 3rd and 26th, I believe. But yeah, it's a great gym.
Caesar, just wanted to get right into yesterday. Obviously, the NSAC ruling on Nick Diaz. He got a 12-month suspension and 30% of his purse taken away. Take us through that yesterday, and obviously, what are your feelings on these findings by this commission?
It was, a joke, really. No matter, this isn't a debate about if marijuana, weed, whatever is good or bad for you or anything like that. That's every adult's prerogative, what they're going to do, But I thought it was like a kangaroo court. They weren't open to facts. They had what they were going to do. They had in mind what they were going to do, and they did it. And they were looking for reasons to be able to do what they were going to do. It wasn't like an actual hearing where let's find the facts. Hey, okay, let's get your side of the story. Oh, that makes kind of sense, or this doesn't. The whole time it was more like everyone there was a prosecutor against Nick, and I thought that was pretty ridiculous. I think the commission was, they were, like I said, they were looking for a reason to convict, if you will, Nick Diaz, and not even looking at the facts. You had a bunch of guys out there. I mean, you're talking about a guy's livelihood. That's what he does for a living. Fighting, whether he wants to, and then you fight MMA or box or something. That's a man's livelihood, and you got these guys that are in charge of a man's livelihood, and they didn't even study the case. They didn't even know what metabolites were. They're like, oh, well, what is that? We're not experts, and they had no clue what it was. And when they brought in an expert, when our side brought one in, they just completely disregarded his testimony. And then they started coming just with the wackiest conclusions, like, oh, the marijuana helps you to focus, Nick? Well, it's a PED then. It's a performance-enhancing drug when, in fact, it helps him because of his ADHD. So that's why it's prescribed. It's almost like, you've got some issue and a doctor gives you some legally prescriptive medicine and it helps you with that issue. And they said, well, there it goes. It helped you. So therefore, it's a performance-enhancing drug. I mean, the conclusions they were finding were so just absurd. And, I couldn't believe it. One thing I will say, though, you know, a lot of people think that maybe I don't talk to Nick and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this or whatever. That's not the case. We have these conversations. Nick is his own man. And but I will say that I'm extremely proud of Nick for going to that and, you know, conducting himself in a professional manner and doing everything. I think he's a guy, he showed me a lot of integrity. And to be honest with you, he showed me a lot more integrity than anybody on that commission showed, because Nick was there and he would not lie. He wouldn't do your little song and dance like everybody else does and say the cute little lies that the commission's waiting for. He wouldn't do that. It's just, you know, he's got the principles. He didn't want to do it. He told the truth completely every time. And, you know, that threatens a commission like that, because really nobody on there seemed to have any integrity. The men were completely emasculated. It was so pathetic. You know, they get on there and they defer to that one lady that is like a Nazi out there. You know, yeah, okay, we defer to you. What should we do, lady? And she tells them, and they all, you know, like I said, kind of like gelding horses is how I describe the male commissioners over there. And they didn't know, okay, well, you suggest that? Oh, I'm in favor, okay, you know. And none of them could think for themselves. And just a really pathetic commission in general. I loved it. I loved it, though, because the public got to see exactly what people have to deal with. You know, I've been speaking to fighters, and, you know, they tell me, you know, these commissions, they're not out there for fighter safety. They're out there to protect themselves, and it's a position of power where they can rule over everybody, and it was pretty pathetic. So I'm glad the public got to see that and see how ridiculous the state of the commission really is.
Yeah, and it seems like this was a problem, obviously, a few years ago with Garcia in California as well, where basically he had guaranteed that he would make money in his position there. And it seems like Nevada's going that direction as well. It seems like they're wanting to try to make money. And I understand they have a failing economy in the state of Nevada, but stealing from your fighters doesn't seem like a good way to go about it.
No, it doesn't. It's like I said, there's so many things. I mean, the whole commission idea was sold to the public as, well, we're here to protect the fighters. We're here to regulate it and make sure that the fighters get a fair shake. The fighters are protected, this, that, here's the rules. And that's how they get in. And that's their premise for getting in there and saying, okay, well, everyone can vote for that. But once they're in, the truth comes out that they're not there for the fighters. You know, they're not helping fighters. They don't care about fighters. They care about themselves. And they're a bunch of cronies that get on a board like that, and they want their little cush, easy job, and then it's almost like they want to sit there and they revel in that power that they have to tell fighters what they, you know, how they're going to conduct themselves. And, okay, well, here's a rule. Too bad, you know, you owe us this much money. You know, it's like it was completely unprofessional. So I agree completely.
Now, the only other thing, I mean, I won't keep bounding it on you, but Goodman, Nick's attorney, said that he might take the NSAC to court. And what are your thoughts? You know, I mean, is it one of those things they're ready to just keep going through court battles? Is Nick kind of up for it, or is he just like, let's just let it drop?
You know, definitely weighing that right now. We're going to, you know, take a couple of days and then weigh all options. And if that option seems like the best one, then we will take that. I really think that they were trying to make an example of Nick because they had done something. They gave him a suspension, a 45-day suspension until the hearing, and then they wouldn't give him a hearing. You know, they just wouldn't give him a hearing, which was against their bylaws, actually. So we had to take it to court. We took it to court one time, and then the judge said, no, you have to give them a hearing within 7 days. That's what happened. And the commission was very pissed off about that. They were like, how dare you, you know, make us follow rules. We make you follow rules. You know, they don't even want to follow their own rules. That's how pathetic they really are. They won't follow their guidelines and their statutes that say you have to have a hearing within 45 days of being suspended by the commission. That's actually in their rule book. And with Nick, he didn't have that. They said, well, we're suspending you until you come up with a marijuana card, which he didn't have a card. He had the actual paperwork for or you don't have to go get a card in California. It's good just as a convenience thing in case you get pulled over from a cop or something. You can pull that out and show it to them. But they said, you can't produce a card, which we didn't have. We're just going to keep, the suspension is indefinite. We're not going to give you a hearing. And they were doing that. They were doing stuff that was illegal. Like I said, can you imagine going to trial and having the prosecutor being your jury, and your judge? I mean, that's pretty much what this commission is. Those people, they don't have any integrity whatsoever. They're a bunch of clowns, in my opinion. And, it's frustrating, like I said, but the one good thing is people got to see that and see just what little absurd people these really are that are running commissions in these states like Nevada. And that was the one thing I was happy about.
And Cesar, turning your attention back to some of the other great fighters, obviously, on your team that you manage and also train, can you talk to me a little bit about the fight Saturday night? Obviously, it was a really close, really competitive fight. Gil thought that he'd won. Josh thought that he'd won after the fight. What are your thoughts on that fight?
I think it was a very close and competitive fight. I actually, at the time of the fight, I was there live, obviously, and I was like, oh, man, that was a close one. I hope we get the nod on that one, and we did. I did get to see the fight on Showtime again last night, and after reviewing it, I thought that Gil won the first 3 rounds, and then I gave Josh the 4th, and he missed, he took the 5th. It was even. He got the last takedown and everything like that, so I could see that going to him. I thought that Gil won 3-2. It was a very competitive fight. I thought Josh did a great job. And when these two guys get together, it's always going to be competitive. I mean, the first one was Josh won, but it was like no one knocked anyone out or anything like that. Second one, and then the third one was probably the closest out of all 3 of them. These guys trained together back in the day a bit when Gilbert used to go down there with Jake Jewins and train with the guys. So they've known each other for a long time. They've had a lot of rounds in the cage. They kind of know what to expect. And it's one of those things. It's, styles make fights, and I think that's just always going to be a tough fight for Gil. I am proud that he pulled it out, and, now hopefully he can fight other people, which I think he actually matches up a lot better with.
So...
Do we see a number 4? I know that it was a trilogy and they were touting it that way, but really, I mean, there's still a lot of questions up in the air. And like you said, it's always going to be competitive. From a fan's point of view like mine, I could watch them fight 1,000,000 times. So do you think there'll be a number 4?
I don't. And the reason for that is not that it wouldn't be another competitive fight, but the reason for that is there's a lot of other people out there to fight. Gil has to go out and he's got to get some bigger fights if he wants to really get his legacy going. I would love to see, the UFC, obviously they bought Strikeforce and everything. They have the controlling interest in it. And I would love to see someone like Gray Maynard or, one of these guys come down and fight Gilbert Melendez, because I think it comes to a point where, let's say they have a 4th one and it's another competitive fight, and then what, a 5th one? I mean, it gets kind of ridiculous after a while. It is what it is. Gilbert got the W on 2 of those fights, and it's time to move on. It's time to move on and find other people and other fights.
See, I agree with you on that one, because one of the things, if you constantly keep giving the rematch, you're more or less saying, well, the rest of our weight class is either small, there's nobody else in there, so we just have to keep these 2 at top. You know what I mean? So, but now I got to get into him. I don't know if this kid is just growing into his own. I know he hates it when I say it, but baby D, Nate Diaz, man, what do you think about the tear that he's going on right now?
I think Nate Diaz is the future of the 155-pound division. In the past, there were issues. There were strength issues. There were power issues. The skills have been there with a guy like Nate Diaz. He's actually gotten better with the skills, but as he has grown, and, he's a tall kid, kind of lanky, if you will. And sometimes what happens with guys like that is it takes them a little bit longer to really get the strength, into their bones, and, because of the length and everything. And now what's happened is he's he's grown into that, and he's got the strength, he's got the mentality that he, you know, I told him before the last fight. I said, listen, you know, I'm talking to him, and I said, it's your world now. I go, people have a time, and this is your time, you know, and you got to make things happen now. You got to go out and you got to beat these guys, and the confidence is there. He understands that he's a veteran. He's been there long enough, and he understands he should be beating these guys. So he went out and he fought a very tough guy, a guy that I personally like, Jim Miller. And, you know, he definitely got the better of him, I think, on the ground. Obviously, we submitted him, standing up. And, you know, in all categories, Nate Diaz looked like the better fighter that night. So I think I agree with you, Jens. He's grown into, you know, his own man, if you will. And he's looking great. I mean, I'm very impressed with him.
Hey, and Caesar, you know, obviously now there's the rematch coming up between Benson and Frankie Edgar. What do you do with Nate Diaz? Do you advise him to sit? Obviously, Dana said that's something that he might do, is sit and wait for his title shot. Or what do you say? I mean, obviously you're his manager, his coach, and his mentor. What kind of advice do you give Nathan?
Well, you know, the whole thing is Nate will fight anybody, and he's fought everybody. I mean, they throw people at him, and he's like 155, 170. The guy is a fighter's fighter, you know. At this point, though, it's time to kind of start to think about your legacy a little bit, and I kind of agree with Dana. I mean, I think he should fight for the title. When he beat Cerrone, you know, he beat Gomi, he looked great, but people were like, okay, admittedly, Gomi is not the Gomi we saw a few years ago. He's still very dangerous. We saw him knock out Tyson Griffith and everybody, but he's not, you know, a top 10 guy. Okay, well, but Nate looked great doing it anyways. All right, so he beat Cerrone, and Cerrone was in line for a title shot, by the way. He was supposed to beat Nate Diaz and get that title shot. Okay, well, guess what? You know, Cerrone got beat by Nate Diaz. After that, you guys still there, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm just caught up listening, brother.
Okay. Oh, no, sorry, man. The phone made a weird noise. I don't know if I lost you or not. Sorry about that. But anyways, what I was saying is he beat Cerrone, and, you know, obviously, well, you know, he kind of takes that spot, but they wanted him to see him fight someone else. We petitioned for the Pettis fight. After he beat Cerrone, everybody in our camp talked to Joe Silva, and we petitioned for a Pettis fight. And I thought that would have been a great fight, and I really wanted that to move Nate up to title contention and everything. At that point, you know, Joe Silva said, well, look, you know, this guy here will get you to the title quicker. This is Miller, and he's actually closer to the title than Pettis is. You know, if you beat him, then you're there. So Nate, like a soldier, went out, took the fight, and did what he does. So he's just going to be a couple extra months sidelined, you know, and it's a big fight. We're waiting for the winner of Henderson versus Frankie Edgar over there.
Yeah, you know, I think the big thing was, you know, it kind of reminds me of when Chuck Liddell was trying to get his chance, you know, to fight for the belt, and they just kept putting him in there. You know, he's the number one guy, and he just almost had to keep fighting and fighting. It's like any one of these, man, you know, one bump and you know, and you're down a peg. And, you know, that was the one thing that, you know, with Nate now, with like you said, the legacy, the way the sport is, you know, it's okay to let's just sit it out. You have your spot, and there's no point in keep pushing because anything could happen. But I know the Diaz boys, it's got to be tough to get Nathan to sit down and, you know, not want to get out there and beat somebody up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much impossible. So, you know, he just does this stuff in training, and he's going to be up here helping some of his boxing guys that come out and help him. And now they've got their fights coming up, so they need the sparring. And so Nate's going to be there for them, you know, giving them great sparring for these professional boxers to do their thing. And there's been all kinds of stuff, man. We got some cool stuff happening. There's a lot of really good professional boxers that have taken a look at these Diaz brothers, and they're actually hitting us up to maybe having them come out to their camps and box with them. Because, you know, you got a guy like Nick Diaz, you know, he can emulate a Margarita pretty good or someone. And and Nate, I mean, the guy's phenomenal with his hands. I put him in with pro boxers, and he tears a lot of these guys up. So he's great sparring, and people are taking notice of these guys' hands.
Oh, Lord. I know I do, that's for sure. And their conditioning, it's just disgusting. But, well, I know you have a full day. One of these days, I got to get out there. It's been so long since I've been in Lodi. Rest in peace, Bob Shamrock. I haven't been out there, and it's been a long time. I mean, it's just been, so I definitely want to get out there and, hang out with you. And try not to stress too much. I'm sure you got about 18,000 people trying to get at you right now. What's it like dealing with the Diaz boys?
Well,
Yeah.
The thing is it's when they don't talk about you anymore that, that you probably should be stressing. With as many problems that we have in our camp, it's just another day. I'm doing what I love. I'm teaching jiu-jitsu. I got a class I'm teaching today, as a matter of fact, coming up here. I got these guys, these Diazes, they do stuff sometimes. They're kind of, and Nick, he'll do some boneheaded stuff. It annoys me. It drives me crazy. But at the end of the day, these guys are just genuinely nice people. They're great guys. They donate to charity. They do this. They do all kinds of stuff for charity. People don't even know that, how much they actually do for charities and stuff. And these guys are great guys. And you've got, like Gilbert Melendez is a great guy. You got Jake Shields over here. And you got all these guys that are big-hearted people. And I think they get the short end of the stick because, the media wants to portray them as some kind of wild animals. And they're a little wild, but, they're people. And I love these guys, and they're just really good people. So I'm happy to be with them. So I'll take the bad with the good because there's a lot of good. So I'm not complaining.
Well, I'll tell you what, they got the best, they got the best because they got you and, your outlook. And just like I said, you're a stand-up individual. I've always known that and thought that. And, so like I said, y'all just hold on, saddle up. You keep bringing out animals and, they want to, they're going to, like you said, the good or the bad, but they're going to continue to talk about you guys. You guys are just writing a new map. So, I just want to wish you a great day. And, hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Hey, thanks a lot for having me on the show. I always got time for you guys. And just to let you know, Nate did give me a message to ask you to come out. So, we would love to see you out here. We'll get a little working out and everything. And it'd be great to have you back over here for a little bit. And we've got a good group of people. Rhonda's out here and crazy people like Cody McKenzie. But we're having a good time. So he definitely wants you out here.
Done deal. I'll be calling. We'll give everybody my best, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. You guys take care. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Hey, Jen.
I'll tell you, Abel. Oh, go ahead. That baby D, huh?
I know. I wish both those boys the best. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time with those two. Running around with the Diaz boys is always entertaining. But you know what I'm excited for right now, Jens? I have to tell you is behold the power of cash, my friend. Who's next?
Oh, it's ridiculous. I don't even know if I should just let him get on here and just start glowing. I mean, I love this guy, dude. No joke. And then watching him do what he just did to Paul Harris. I got to, Belcher, quit playing, man. How you doing?
What's up, man? What's up? I'm doing great. Great to hear from you, man. I love you too, Jen. You're the man.
That's my boy. Hey, I have to go right off the bat and ask, were you deliberately going to go, when you fought Paul Harris, it almost seemed like, hey, I'm going to go right into your world because I know you probably got tired of hearing everybody say, oh, don't go to the ground with him. Watch his legs. The leg lock king, dear God. And it almost seems like you went in there and did the big what's up now and just threw a leg in there and said, here, let's see what he's got. And you just ate him up.
I was definitely prepared for it, man. I wasn't really deliberately planning on doing that. I knew if we got in a grappling situation, I was going to stop him and I was going to attack him. So, I wasn't going to run away from it at all. So the opportunity presented itself and I did my thing and it worked out good,
And Alan, I was having this conversation with Jens. We talked about his Holman fight and how he'd prepared so much for Holman's grappling game. And everybody said, if you hit the mat with Holman, you're in his world. But what I made the point to Jens is, at what point during your training camp does that become actually your world? And is that what you were able to find when you found yourself in that position?
Man, I think that all the hype behind him was, it kind of fueled me to have that nervous energy and be ready to take over. So I don't know, man. I just worked really hard to get good at defending leg locks, and I trained so hard and I was so prepared. I had the confidence, and that the confidence is the main thing that helps you win fights. So I was fearless, and I had the confidence. So it didn't really matter what he was going to do to me. I had an answer for everything.
Hey, and one more question. Obviously, your ground and pound was brutal. I mean, that was some of the most brutal ground and pound I've ever seen. But why didn't you use the Johnny Cash elbow more?
I don't know, man. I just got the right elbow is kind of the cemetery one, Left elbow was the hospital, right elbow cemetery. So
my man.
I was trying to end it.
Oh, I love it. My thing is, go ahead, brother. Keep going. Oh, well, then I'm jumping back in. Hey, no.
Oh, no, yeah, no. I was. Go ahead.
Oh, see, I'm stumbling over the top here. You can see, you can tell, I get excited to see you, man. Last time I seen you was in like an airport. But so just the overall, I think what I noticed more than anything, and what I just was blown away by more, was just the attitude. Not a bad attitude, but just your confidence for fighting. And all of a sudden, is you're just going in there to wreck house, and I'm like, oh my God! Now I'm like, this kid is. Dang, I mean, is that what you are 100%? Hey, I'm going after this belt. I'm going to do something. It just seems like you've got just this extra fire, just this extra motivation or something. Something clicked in you, and you just you're starting to bring pain. Where's the overall outcome of this going? I don't know. You don't want to look too far, ahead, but, you're like, that's it. I'm going after the title.
Yeah, Jen, I don't really know where it's all coming from, but all I can really say is I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my career, and I went there for years, winning a couple fights and losing one, and just kept me out of the top 10. And it was just kind of, I was very durable, and I was getting better, but I wasn't, I couldn't really break into that world class, world champion type of level, And you even knew me from way back in the day, years back. And, I've just been working on it for so long, and just there's a certain time where it just starts clicking for you, and you get your mind, under control, man. And when you were in the peak of your career, and when you were on fire, and it's just a feeling that you got in your mind, and you just know yourself, your opponent, what you're there to do, your abilities, and you just run through people. And I think that's kind of where I'm getting to right now, especially, with the injury that I had. It kept me out, made me have a different outlook on the whole game and just my appreciation, and made me look at it more like, am I going to be able to do this more? It is, how much longer, period, and it took me out of that, like, worrying about the title shot and stuff like that. So, I think the answer to your question is, it just started clicking for me. And now my mind is really dialed in, I'm really focused. And I think it's going to work out good for me.
See, that's the one thing I love, because it's just a natural thought. It's almost like I can't even break it down to you, Jens, because it's just one of those things where it's all just clicked to the point that you don't even think about it, and you just become savage. So I had this though. So when could we see a return? When do we get to see another exciting, destructive moment? I just want to see the tattoo. When do I get to see the Cash get back in that cage and put the smack down, brother?
Man. Well, as soon as we can just come to an agreement on my next opponent, there's a couple guys. I only want to fight top guys, obviously, but now it's really getting down to the nitty gritty. There's not a big group of top guys anymore, there's only 3 or 4 guys at all even possible, you know, and I got my sights set on whoever moves me into the title contention the fastest. So, you know, we got to let Bisping and Bosch and, you know, Vitor and Vanderlei. We got Stan and Lombard. We got, there's one more matchup, Munoz and Weidman. So it sounds like a lot of guys, but I think it's only, you know, 8 guys with at least 4 winners, which really there'll only be 1 or 2 of those guys that I'll even want to fight. So, you know, we'll talk about it and see which one gets me fired up the most. That's what I'm going to try to go for. And I'll be ready to get back in there, man. So I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months. I don't want to wait too long.
I got you. Well, I'll let you have your little hit list. I'm sure you're ready, you know, whatever comes. I know you just be ready for it. But hey, let's talk webinar here, young man. Let's promote this webinar. What do we got going on? Explain to me, you know, I'm gonna play the uneducated kid here. What do we got going on? Explain this webinar to us.
Well, man, I'm kind of like you. I'm not real great with technology and stuff, but what a webinar is basically like a seminar where you know, you can teach in a lot of different forms. This way that I'm going to do it, it's going to be a video. It's going to be like teaching some moves and stuff, and it's going to be on your computer. So you got to go and register for it at AlanBelcherSeminars.com, and then there's a certain time. It's just like going to a class or something. It's going to be 8:30 Thursday night. A lot of people were asking me to put together some kind of video or, you know, teach a seminar at their school or something. I'm like, man, I'm busy training. I don't have time to go around the world, go around the country and do this kind of stuff. So I'm just going to do this one-time webinar, teach my leg lock defenses that I used in the fight. You know, there's a lot of hype right now. A lot of people are asking me questions. And I just want to give back to the BJJ MMA community, answer those questions. I'm going to get on there, teach for an hour or 2, and then I'll stay on there all night if I have to, just asking whatever kind of questions or whatever. So originally my trainer, Lyle Henley, was going to get on there, and we were going to do show some of the techniques that we were using for strength and conditioning to get out of escapes, kind of as a little bonus there. But I think the plans have changed now, man. I'm going to be at a new location, and there's going to be some new people involved, so it's going to be a super secret surprise guest on my webinar. So it's going to be cool. You can just go to AlanBelcherSeminars.com if you're interested. There's not a whole lot of seats left. Put your name and email in right there. The video explain it all. That's it, man. So, you know, it's just for people that are serious. They want to start training, or they're already training. They want to learn how to escape foot locks and knee bars. Never get tapped out again by one of those.
Oh, man, I love it. That's what I'm saying. There you go, pushing it out there that way. No, it is a lot better because now you get to do it in the comfort of your own gym. You know what I'm saying? Like you said about, I think the days of actually having to travel around and, you know, do seminars. Yeah, it's great to meet the guy in person, you know, but this way, you know, you'll be sitting out there. You're going to take some chat. You're going to have them just leave questions on Twitter. They're going to hit the, you're going to have the rolling chat board going, or how is it that they can talk to you and that you're going to be following? You're going to be able to follow them back. You hear me there? Oh.
What do you say? How are they going to be able to talk to you? What do you say?
I mean, so you're going to be able to do the Q&A afterwards? These guys going to be able to answer you questions? I mean, are you going to do it through Twitter? Or?
This is all actually. It's going to be all on Facebook. So once you register for it, like we'll send out an email, and you just click the email right before it starts. It'll send you to a Facebook page, and you watch the webinar there. Under it, it'll be a comment stream, so everybody will be able to see the questions. I'll be able to see the questions, and Facebook's really easy to use. You know, most of us have learned how to use it at least. So it's real familiar. That's why I wanted to use that. So it's just like, you know, basically commenting on a post, and I'll see it there, and I'll answer it in live time with everybody. And I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but this is free. So I'm not going to be selling anything on the webinar. You don't have to pay anything for it. There's going to be a few thousand people tuned in for it. And it's all free. So there's no reason not to do it.
Man, even if it was paying, I was still going to do it. But now, hey, you got to get a little Just Scrap Radio paying attention. You know what I mean? We got to start paying, get after that. But no, that's awesome, man. I'm pumped for you. It's pretty cool. But on that, before we let you go, I'm going to hit you up with this. This is because, yeah, man, I got to. I'm curious about this one. Okay, you start jogging. We're going to talk playlist for a minute. We got your music playlist. When you start your workout, what's the first song that we would hear if we snagged your playlist?
The first song that you would hear, my most recently played song, or whatever, most commonly played, is probably going to be Chris Cornell, "Wide Awake." So look up that song. I don't know if you guys are a Chris Cornell fan, but man,
I'm from Seattle.
I love Chris Cornell. That's right, man. These are some of my favorite dudes. They're in the category of my top 5 with Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan. That's the kind of stuff you're going to hear. But most recently, I was jamming to that one in the sauna for my fight, and before the fight, I listened to it 2 or 3 times. I was the only one in there with the boombox. I had the iPod dock going, had Wide Awake jamming, and alternative to that, the other thing I had going was Soja. It's a reggae band. They're badass if you're into reggae. Obviously, we got Johnny Cash and all the classic country favorites, man. So, like I said, man, Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam, Chris Cornell.
I love it. I love it.
There you go.
I'll give you one, Belcher. Before we wrap it up, I'll give you the last song I ran to, the last 2 songs. Kenny Rogers, "Coward of the County," and Merle Haggard's "Are the Good Times Really Over for Good?"
That is awesome. That's good, man. "Coward of the County." That's one of my all-time favorites. That was pretty awesome, man.
But
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice little story.
Thank you very much, brother, for coming on. Again, tuning into the webinar, we'll be checking it out. And, man, just keep the truck rolling, son. You buddy, damn, I want to wish you all the best. And we'll be in touch, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I'll do your show anytime, buddy. And thanks to everybody over there.
Okay, brother. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you.
A. Pale Pulver. Did you not hear that list? I thought he took your playlist for a second.
He should be my roommate. The guy he should be my roommate. Just move out to Seattle. I don't know about the reggae stuff. I'm not much into those ragu festivals or whatever, but he definitely has good musical taste. And with like I said, the power of cash on his left arm. I mean, how can he go wrong, dude?
Yeah, well, with that being said, I mean, that's another question, that I was just thinking about and definitely wanted to ask you is, what do you think? What do you think he's next? I know you were hitting up Bisping and, things like that. Who would you like to see him throw down, that's going to help propel him, especially if he's going to truck through it like he just did with Pajares? I mean, who do you see? What do you think? Give me a matchup for him.
Well, obviously you got to see how it all pans out, between, say, Munoz and Weidman. I think the winner of that fight would be a great fight for him. Bisping's probably one of the bigger names out there, and I think that's a guy that would make a really enjoyable fight to watch for fans with him because of the stand-up aspect, and I think Belcher would be more than willing to stand and, bring it to Bisping. And, Bisping seems to always build a fight in a good way. He's kind of got that bravado where he likes to talk it up a whole lot, and I don't know if he backs it up a whole lot as much as I think maybe he thinks he does, but he always is good at building a fight like that. He's not a very humble guy when it comes to his own skill set, so I think a fight with like Belcher and Bisping would be probably the one that really gets me the most interested from a fan point of view. But then I think a fight with a guy like him and Munoz, a takedown, just wrecking ball kind of guy, would probably be the difficult one stylistically.
Hey, and then to move on from that a minute, I mean, speaking of takedowns, wrecking ball type guys, let's talk about this main event that's coming up. Oh, and before I do that, I'm hoping our captain, Mr. BJ Penn, he's out there running, listening to the show. he better at least have about another 2 miles in him. Get it, BJ? Let's keep running, brother. Let's get that. Let's get to running. And but so let's go after. Let's just talk about Dos Santos and Frank Mir. When I say wrecking ball, Mir is just snapping limbs. Something about him, man. He gets it. He just keeps getting himself into these positions because, you know, 1 minute he loses the big fight, but then all of a sudden, you know, he comes in and whap, he's snapping elbows and he's right back in there again. I mean, he's always in the top of the picture, but he's always that guy that nobody, you know, you see a Dos Santos, you're going, oh my God, look at this guy. He's crazy. But then here comes Frank Mir, just slide underneath the scene and snap. All right, well, now we got this fight. How do you see this one playing out and going down?
Well, you know, obviously Frank Mir was probably the best challenger that they had after the Overeem debacle. Obviously, Overeem's entire test and whatnot is a debacle and an embarrassment to the sport when you got a guy peeing at a 14-1 level. So you bring somebody in that's a good guy, and Frank Mir is definitely one of those guys that's a good guy and a good fighter. And I tell you, though, this fight is very interesting to me on a number of levels. I don't know how great Dos Santos is on his back. So, you know, if the fight ends up there, obviously you got to favor Mir a little bit. But then again, Dos Santos is so fast with his footwork and his hands that I don't know if Mir can stand and box with him. So I almost see this as being one of those fights, and you know this fight because you helped him train, like a Tim Sylvia versus a Brandon Vera. If you can't bang with them on the feet, get him up against the fence and try to get him to the ground, you know. So I don't know. How do you see it playing out?
Well, and that's the big thing is when you're trying to, you know, if you're having a hard time standing with the guy and you're not being able to flinch, throw your jukes in there and get him to jump a little bit, then that means you're going to be shooting from a distance. And if Dos Santos his goal is to keep it up and he's just, you know, front running and landing big shots and able to get away with combinations, now all of a sudden you're this guy, and I don't care if you're an Olympian wrestler, I don't care if you're a 4-time national champion in the, you know, NCAAs, whatever. When you're shooting from that far out, that's about a high school level. I mean, what you can do after that. One thing I always like about Johnny Hendricks is it's the after. It's once he gets in, it's second effort, third effort, fourth effort, fifth effort. The Iowa style, Oklahoma style of we're going to finish this single leg. Problem is with this is when you're shooting from that far out, you're just opening yourself up even more. So to be able to get in, clinch, you know, and have successful takedowns could be tough, especially if he's not even, you know, a threat in the stand-up aspect, or he's not even getting Dos Santos to wonder or worry about, okay, where's this guy going to go? So that, you know, but again, Mir gets it done. He always has, and, you know, I mean, we'll have to sit and watch, but that's just my take on that aspect is if Dos Santos is out there bombing you, hitting you with hooks, that obviously makes sure you don't want to come pummeling inside because that dude's going to hook you with the short shot. So now you're shooting from a far distance. And then, you know, like I said, that just causes you can get sprawled on even more. You're giving up your front, you know, the front headlock, or what I like to run into, the guillotine, you know, so, you know, things of that nature. But then I look down here and I see another one. This is going to be crazy because I still think Cain Velasquez, I mean, I love him at heavyweight. He's an exciting fighter, but he's one too. You know, I'm not telling everybody, oh, they should drop down, but, you know, he seems to be a smaller heavyweight, and he's taking on probably the biggest heavyweight right now, old Antonio Bigfoot Silva. What do you think?
I think this is going to be kind of a representative of exactly the same way that Cormier fought him. Obviously, he and Cain are teammates and whatnot. And I think that Velasquez is going to be able to use his speed and his footwork and his wrestling ability. I think he'll be able to dump him, you know, and take him in those positions. And I just see Bigfoot being a little too slow, I think, for Cain Velasquez. And if his head's in the right place, I think Cain comes out with a W here.
I like it. I like it. See, I'm not even throwing an opinion out there. I'm like, whatever. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's definitely, again, when it comes to Cain, I love his style, you know, and it's going to be cool because you are seeing, you know, a Fedorist type fight where he's the littler guy, but he just has such an arsenal and he brings back that wrestling, you know what I mean? And he's going to give Bigfoot a lot of problems. But again, trying to duck past those big old hands that are like the size of basketballs, you know, that's quite the dip you're going to have to throw into there and get out of the way. But, So I think overall it's going to be a great fight to watch. I'm excited for it, and then of course you've got just a massive card. But looking down, I have to throw it out there right off the yayo is Dwayne Ludwig fighting Dan Hardy. Go ahead and throw out your opinion on that one.
I think this is the biggest trap fight of the night. Honestly, I think that the UFC, I think they did a great job in making this fight. Joe Silva, you're good mind, buddy, because this is the fight that I'm actually really excited to watch. They're both obviously big hitters, big punchers on their feet, but I've said it, you've heard me say it on the air on this show before, you do not want to mess with Dwayne Ludwig's right hand. And I think that Hardy's in big trouble. I think the second he signed his name on the contract, he was in deep shit because Dwayne Ludwig is not to be toyed with on the feet. And I think if Hardy tries to load up that left hook, he's going to get piped by a right hand before it gets there. And I think he might end up asleep in this fight.
Hey, I'm going to say it from day one. Dwayne Ludwig's the reason why I even started getting into boxing. I thought I had me some stand-up, until he and I decided to fight one time, and he steps to the right and clocks me with the hand. I ended up fighting for another 2 minutes when he hits me with the hook, and I rolled underneath the rope, sat up on the side of the apron, and just started waving to the crowd. Hey, well, remember, like, is he out? Pat goes, yeah, you better go get him. You better go get him.
I remember I turned to Robbie and I said, is he hurt? And Robbie looked me dead in the face and said, what the fuck do you think? Yeah, he's hurt.
Yeah, and I'm sitting over there waving to the crowd, what's up, what's up? And the referee's like, well, I think this one's over.
I don't think I've ever seen that many grown men cry, honestly. I mean, and I'll admit it, I bawled like a baby, man. I don't think I've ever seen that many grown men cry.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Ludwig was the one. And after that, I'm like, all right, well, I never seen I didn't even see that right hand against that little savage. So it's time to start going into some boxing and, getting things up. And it probably messed me up because now I'm like, wait, what happened to my wrestling? But it was funny because we were in the back of the locker room. I'm like, well, how'd I get this bruise? Oh, well, that's where he hit you with the right hand. I said, okay, well, why do I have bruises on my arms? He goes, well, that's where he tried to kick your head off and you blocked it. I said, well, what's these on I go, why is the back of my head so? He goes, well, that's where you shot. He sprawled and probably pelted you about 18 times on the side of your grill. And I go, oh, okay. And then, because that's the one thing you're always trying to figure it out. And I remember going, well, what about over here? He goes, well, that'd be the hook he just mashed you with and where you flipped underneath the ropes, popped up, and you just started waving to the crowd. And I remember sitting in the corner, Pat's pulling on my glove. I'm sitting there thinking, I kind of must have come to him going, man, that was a fast round. Woo! I still got my energy. Good God, that was a quick round. I'm feeling good. And Pat keeps pulling my glove. I go, stop it, Pat, quit playing. And then I was sitting there and he pulls it again. I go, hey, stop. And then I look over and I see a jump in the air. I see Boston there and he puts his shirt on. I remember the utter shock in my face. I looked over and went, because this is the first time it ever happened. I go, and Pat goes, yeah. I go, did I get knocked out? And he goes, yeah. I go, I don't even remember. I don't even remember what just happened. So, yeah, Ludwig, I love his right hand, his style, the way he just worked the mirror, with just ridiculousness. He's just found the level that he's coming off of, and then we get Mike Thomas Brown. He's fighting. I'm a Mike Brown man fan, period. I love that. I love him when he fights, Roy Nelson, he's going to be throwing down. How do you not like the gut? You know what I mean? He's going to get after it. Go ahead.
Another really interesting fight. Stipe Miocic is 8-0 versus Shane Del Rosario. Obviously, he was 9-0, a guy who beat LeVar Johnson in one of his last outs. He armbarred him in the first round. Somebody's O's got to go, and that's a really interesting fight as well.
Yeah, we can see. I don't know what's going on. I like Rosario. He gets after it. He's a good boy, and he tries to throw his punches. But again, we're just looking at all kinds of, this is a great card coming up. And again, with just unreal main event. Oh, I'm telling you, I'm pumped because it's going to be a great job. And again, tips to Frank Mir. I know he was waiting for this opportunity, and what a way to capitalize on a bad moment when somebody decided to come in like the Incredible Hulk with the 14-1. No, but anyway, so it's going to be a great card. Going to have a lot of fun watching that. But Abel, I think that will pretty much do it for today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, at Just Scrap Radio, Twitter us, hit us up. We'll answer questions. We'll play along. Want to get you all involved. You know, this is our 6th show. We're going to keep going at it. We're going to keep getting things fixed. Again, I want to shout out to Pedro, you know, he's our producer. You know, he runs bjpenn.com. Obviously, my little brother Abel. Love having you on. And the man, he's out there jogging.
Hey, man.
Mr. BJ
Hey,
Penn.
and you know what? You
Go
want to
ahead.
hear something funny? Okay, so I was talking to BJ the other night, and he told me he's gotten into a new thing with his running. He said that he doesn't wear shoes anymore. So I want to know if BJ's out there barefoot right now, ripping around Hawaii.
Oh, I'll tell you what, he's going to get a look if he does. If he's doing that, then I expect him to get some Dickies, cut them off so they're all frayed down at the bottom, and have a ripped shirt on so he look like the Incredible Hulk. Just come back to Mr. Banner and take off running down the road. I will start crying. Oh my God, you know? And that's going to be a whole nother deal. I know people are asking and wondering because there was a cost check ordeal too about BJ, what's going to be doing, you know, and stuff. So like I said, one of the things is he's going to have to come on here and make that announcement, but I'll keep my opinions to myself. But dang, BJ. He's the man, you know. So this has been a lot of fun. And again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And if you haven't, go tell about 6 friends and get them to tune in. And we'll just pay it forward. We're going to get after it. One of these days, we're going to talk about anxiety and depression. We might just get crazy. And Pedro keeps putting together these, you know, great cards. I mean, Belcher, for real, Caesar Gracie, huh? You know, I mean, it's just having Josh Thompson on here. Really? I mean, that's just, we're making statements. We're going to keep getting after it. And, you know, hopefully you'll get to see us rolling live one of these days soon. Maybe we'll go to a UFC expo or something, and we're all going to be donning the Hawaiian flags and tearing things up. So with that, my little brother Abel Pulver, Mr. Pedro Carrasco, I mean, I don't even want to butcher his last name, but I'm going to give it a shot. And myself, Little Evil, Jens the Smiling Man Pulver. We'll do it next time. We'll see you next Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern, bjpenn.com. Make sure you chase after the archives. You can go back, watch this, watch it 100 times. Follow us on the Twitter at Just Scrap Radio. And I'm going to shut up because I'm kind of getting in the mood here, and I'll just keep on talking. Y'all know me. I talk. So with that, again, I never get tired of saying it. My man, may he rest in peace, Big Papa Schnocky. As he used to say, we are out. Peace, hair grease. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Maholler.